Josh has barely settled into his new home when he starts to sense something is off. Just outside his front door, the road curves sharply, creating a dangerous blind spot for oncoming drivers. In a place like this, accidents feel almost unavoidable. All it takes is a single moment of lost control, and a car could come crashing straight into the house. That fear becomes real on the very first night. A car spins out, and one of its tires flies directly into their living room. Josh and his wife come within inches of being killed. As he looks at the wreck outside, he realizes that if not for a tree stopping the vehicle, they might not have survived the night. This is Sharp Corner.
Handle it.
On the drive home one day after picking up his wife, he brings up the latest crash again. The news reported that it was caused by drunk driving. The driver died on the spot while the passenger survived. Josh feels a deep sense of sympathy for the driver. When they arrive home, Rachel notices their son Max playing near the tire marks left behind from the crash. She quickly pulls him away, worried about the broken glass still scattered across the yard. Later, Josh cleans up the debris himself. He removes the glass and spreads grass seed, trying to restore the yard to what it used to be. Not long after, he sees the victim's family arrive at the site. They place a cross by the roadside and lay flowers as they mourn. Josh stays hidden behind the house the entire time. He cannot bring himself to approach them. He is afraid that facing them would only deepen the pain for everyone involved. Even so, he cannot stop thinking about the boy. He feels nothing but sympathy and keeps telling himself that the young man should never have died like that. After the family leaves, Josh walks over to the cross. He learns that the victim was only 18 years old. A football lies beside it, along with a few personal belongings. As he takes it all in, the weight of it hits him completely, and he is overwhelmed with grief. Later at work, he cannot stop himself from searching for the boy online. He learns his name was Eric, a football player with a bright future and a girlfriend who cared deeply for him. The more he reads, the heavier it all feels. The thought of such a young life ending so suddenly pulls him into a storm of emotions, and before long, he is grieving for someone he never even knew. That night, during a dinner with friends, the topic comes up again. No matter how uncomfortable it makes everyone else, he keeps going. The mood at the table shifts, but he does not notice, or maybe he does not care. He goes on about Eric's life, how he had just graduated, how he had already secured a place in a sports college with a full scholarship. Then, as if it is the most natural thing in the world, he suggests they all take a moment to mourn him together. After the gathering, Rachel finally steps in. She tells him he needs help, and that he cannot keep bringing this kind of energy into their home. She worries about Max, about what all of this might do to him. With her background in emotional mediation, she even offers to help Josh find proper counseling, but he shuts it down without hesitation. The next day, he returns to the roadside and studies the flow of traffic. He starts to convince himself that the crash happened because the bushes were blocking the road sign. In his mind, it was preventable. Acting on that belief, he grabs a chainsaw and cuts every single bush down. He tells himself he is making the road safer, that he is protecting future drivers. That night, he sits outside his front door, staring at the curve across the street. Each passing car pulls his attention. His thoughts begin to spiral. He keeps wondering if what he did made the difference, if without his actions, the next driver might have crashed. The next day, the three of them head out to an amusement park, trying to enjoy a normal family moment. Max spots a teddy bear and immediately wants it. Josh initially refuses, thinking they already have more than enough toys at home. But something about the moment shifts his thinking. Deep down, he starts to question his own motives. Everything he has been doing, all the risks he has taken, it all ties back to one idea. He wants to be seen as a hero, especially in front of his son. In the end, he gives in, and Max gets the teddy bear. On the way home, the family is laughing and singing as if nothing is wrong. For a brief moment, everything feels normal again. That night, while Josh is cooking in the kitchen, the sound of another crash suddenly cuts through the calm. It is loud and violent. He drops everything and runs outside. But he is too late. The car responsible has already fled the scene. He rushes over to the injured driver and finds the man barely holding on. There is nothing he can really do except stay by his side, trying to keep him conscious while waiting for help to arrive. But it is not enough. Before the ambulance gets there, the man dies right in front of him. Then the man's phone begins to ring. Josh picks it up and hesitates for a moment, unsure of what to do. As the sirens approach in the distance, something in him acts without thinking. He quietly slips the phone into his pocket. Afterward, he sits by the window, replaying the entire moment over and over in his mind. He knows he got there as quickly as he could, but it does not matter. Without the knowledge or skills to help, he was powerless. The weight of that failure presses down on him, filling him with guilt and regret. Rachel sees things differently. To her, 2 accidents in just a few days feel like a warning. She begins to believe there is something wrong with the house itself, especially since it sat unsold for so long. She insists they need to move before something even worse happens, before their own family becomes part of it. But Josh cannot hear her anymore. He is too consumed by what happened. Once again, she urges him to get help, and once again he refuses. From that point on, his condition continues to spiral. He loses interest in his job and withdraws further into himself. At one point, he even connects the dead man's phone to his computer. As he scrolls through the photos, he realizes the man was around his age and shared similar interests, like playing golf. That discovery hits him hard, breaking whatever fragile balance he had left. Not long after, Josh shows up at the man's memorial service, dressed in black. He pretends to be one of the man's golf buddies and quietly takes a seat beside the man's daughter, trying to offer comfort. But she does not recognize him, and she shuts him down immediately. Even so, Josh cannot let go of the guilt. Deep down, he feels responsible for her loss. From that point on, he becomes determined to never feel that helpless again. He signs up for a first aid course, convinced that next time he will be ready. But that determination slowly takes over everything. He starts neglecting his job, spending his time listening to first aid lessons instead of working. He even orders a CPR dummy and practices in secret whenever he is alone, repeating the same motions again and again. One day while driving home after picking Max up from school, they pass an ambulance. Instantly, Josh knows there has been another crash near his house. Without hesitation, he speeds up and follows it. Max is terrified, but Josh does not slow down. When they arrive, Josh's entire focus is on the rescue. He watches the paramedics closely as they perform CPR, studying every move, even counting the rhythm to himself. Then suddenly he realizes Max is no longer in the car. Panic sets in. After searching frantically, he finds Max standing still in front of a burned-out vehicle. When Rachel arrives and pulls their son into her arms, Josh feels a brief sense of relief. But the look on Rachel's face says everything. There is only anger and disappointment. A few days later, Josh finally agrees to see a therapist. But by then, something inside him has already changed. His thoughts have started to twist, and he begins to believe that if he had made different choices that day, he could have saved the man who died. At home, the situation continues to fall apart. Rachel forces him out of their bedroom, making him sleep in Max's room instead. At work, he keeps missing shifts without explanation, leaving his responsibilities behind. Eventually, he loses his job, but he keeps it to himself, hiding the truth from Rachel as everything around him continues to collapse. One night, while putting away Max's toys, Josh notices something unsettling. The way his son arranged them mirrors the crash scenes almost perfectly. It is a clear sign that Max has been affected more than anyone realized. But instead of comforting him or trying to fix it, Josh does the opposite. He adjusts one of the toys so it faces the accident, recreating the moment even more accurately. Rather than reflecting on what he has done, he ends up encouraging it. Not long after, his behavior takes a darker turn. He begins placing trash cans in the middle of the road, subtly trying to create the conditions for another crash. Every time a car passes by, he catches himself hoping something will go wrong. At this point, he is no longer just struggling mentally, he is crossing into something far more dangerous. The next day, Rachel takes Max to his second therapy session. Josh claims he has to work and stays behind. Before leaving, Rachel reminds him to be home by 3 because a couple is coming to view the house. He agrees without hesitation. But as soon as she leaves, he shuts the door and goes back inside, continuing his CPR practice. Over and over, he repeats the same motions, as if waiting for a moment to prove himself. Still, that moment has not come, so he sits by the window, watching the road, almost wishing for another accident to happen. At 3, the couple arrives right on time, but Josh turns them away immediately and refuses to even let them step inside. It does not take long for the truth to come out. When Rachel finds out, she returns home and begins packing without saying much. She has reached her limit. The moment she sees the CPR dummy, whatever feelings she had left disappear completely. Josh tries to justify himself, saying he was only thinking of the couple, that the woman was pregnant and he did not want them making a mistake by buying the house. But Rachel sees through him now. There is no confusion left, no excuses that make sense. The reality of who he has become is clear. Soon after, she sends divorce papers through her lawyer. She is fully committed to leaving. Josh is given only 2 hours a week to see Max, and even those visits must be supervised. For Mac's sake, Josh finally decides to stop. He prepares to sell the house and leave everything behind. He cleans every corner, fixes everything he can, and tries to make the place presentable again. But no matter how hard he tries, no one wants it. People come, take a quick look, and leave almost immediately. After months of this, he has no choice but to sell it at a very low price. Eventually, someone agrees to buy it. Afterward, Josh goes to Rachel and pleads with her. He tells her he has changed, that he just wants to be a better father. He does not ask her to come back. All he wants is to live closer to Max. But Rachel has already made her decision. She refuses to let Max be pulled any deeper into Josh's world than he already has. That night, Josh loads his belongings into the car, preparing to leave. As he walks down, he suddenly slips and crashes hard onto the wet ground. Pain shoots through his body, but instead of getting up, he stays there for a moment, staring at the slick surface beneath him. A thought takes hold. Ever since learning first aid, he has not saved a single person. If he does not do it tonight, maybe he never will. He begins testing the ground over and over, making sure it is slippery enough. Once he is convinced, he turns off every light in the house. In complete darkness, it would only take one small mistake for a driver to lose control. Then he waits. Car after car passes by without incident. Nothing happens. The silence stretches on, and slowly impatience starts to creep in. So he takes it further. He grabs a hose and sprays more water across the road, increasing the risk even more. Eventually, another car approaches. Josh hides nearby and watches closely. But once again, it makes it through safely. That is when his attention shifts to the roadside warning sign. In his mind, that is the only thing preventing the crash. Without hesitation, he grabs a chainsaw and cuts it down. Now everything is set. He lays out his tools and his first aid kit, preparing for the moment he has imagined countless times. He is no longer trying to help people. He is trying to fulfill something much darker. And finally, it happens. A car loses control and crashes. Josh rushes in immediately, grabbing the tools he prepared. Inside the wreck, the victim is trapped, pinned by the seatbelt. The door is completely crushed. He tries to force it open with an axe, but the tool breaks almost instantly. Nothing goes the way he imagined. Just then, a passing school bus slows down, and people begin gathering around. Josh pushes forward, telling others to call for help while he struggles to free the victim. He cuts the seatbelt and pulls the person out. Then he moves quickly, checking for a pulse, checking for breathing. There is nothing. He forces himself to remember everything he learned and begins CPR, repeating the motions again and again. Time passes, but there is still no response. The reality of the situation is nothing like the heroic moment he had built up in his mind. For the first time, it fully hits him. He thought he was becoming a savior, but instead, he has destroyed everything. His family, his trust, even the person he used to be. And then, just at the very last moment, the victim starts to respond. The weight on his chest finally lifts. He realizes how close he came to causing something irreversible. Soon after, the paramedics arrive and take over. For a brief second, a sense of satisfaction flickers inside him, as if he has finally proven himself. But it does not last. Almost immediately, it is replaced by something far heavier. Fear and a crushing sense of guilt. So the moral of the story is, if your house comes with free daily car crashes, maybe just move out instead of trying to become Batman with a CPR dummy.